Today on the podcast, we're talking to Fremont Public Schools Superintendent Mark Shepard, and he's going to talk to us about dual enrollment. So I thought it might be interesting for Catherine and I to discuss our experience with either did we take college classes in high school? What did that look like for us, if at all? Do you have thoughts?
We had like AP, and I did not take them. I was not, because they were all in courses I really wasn't strong in. They were like science.
Yeah, like AP Bio, and you're like, yeah,
Barf.
okay.
AP Chem.
No thanks.
My sister took AP Chem, and
Julianne.
She took Chem, and then the next year maybe she just took AP Chem instead of, it doesn't matter. She took AP Chem, which is crazy. And then there was like AP Bio, and then there was one more, I think, but I don't remember what it was. But that was in the early-ish 2000s. So I know now my high school offers a lot more like internship things, dual enrollment type things, a lot. Like I think still a lot of AP, but like a lot more hands-on experience in those areas that students might be interested in.
Yeah, so I went to a small Catholic school in rural.
Like, I'm not going to change my mind once I get there. Or maybe I do just need to go to a 2-year college to be able to do what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there were I know that there were plenty of people that I went to high school with that would have thrived in that sort of environment. And gotten their diesel tech, whatever.
Yeah.
And got that right out the gate, and then go right to working on the farm, but also like have their diesel tech so they are able to do all of that stuff and maybe make money on the side doing other diesel tech. I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally see how that is like not just for Omaha, Fremont, or like the bigger city, like in small communities too. It's a game changer
for sure. And like those are the communities that are going to be impacted most by this. Mm-hmm. So I think, like we talk about on this podcast, like brain drain and, people leaving Nebraska to go take their smarts somewhere else. And if everybody really feels so strongly that they don't want people to do that, then they should be so in support of this. Because it is keeping smart, hardworking, driven students where you want them to be and where they realize they can make the most impact.
Truly.
Right in their community.
And again, just because I am from a small town, I just see like unlimited impact on those communities.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, yeah, our car repair shop doesn't have to close because there's no one to do it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have anyone who took any classes to do that. Nobody was interested. They weren't even introduced to it. So they didn't even think about it as an option.
Right.
And now I have to drive 2 hours if I need to get my car repaired.
Yeah.
Which, like, if your car is repaired, guess what? You're not going to make it.
You might not get there. Yeah.
And then, like, same with, like, hospitals. And, there's a nursing shortage. We need all of those people. And small towns are not immune to tech.
Right.
Like, hello. Hello?
Hello.
Like, there are so many jobs out there. And I think to keep not only just Nebraska in general thriving, but small communities, if we want to keep these small communities going and thriving and have them not just kind of disappear, we need dual enrollment and these kinds of classes to engage students right away and potentially keep them in those communities if they want to stay.
Right. And I think there's also, I think just we as a society have learned that students learn differently. Mm-hmm. Not even just now. I think it's more apparent now that like some students all learn differently, but it's like sitting in a classroom for 8 hours doesn't do it for everybody.
No.
So like these programs that are hands-on and showing you like all these possibilities can make such a difference in a student's mind and showing like, give them this confidence, like, okay, I can do this actually.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And then just the concept of the instructor is a facilitator to your learning instead of just sitting and talking at you. Oh yeah, like I am in charge of my destiny here. Like
I'm doing this.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's not just being thrust upon me. This is something like, oh wow, I'm in the thick of it. I'm doing it. I built a house in high school.
Yeah. Brag. Brag.
Yeah, I just am really proud of MCC for being so forward thinking
Me too.
in this. I mean, even before the ARPA funding, we knew that dual enrollment was important. And then to use the funds that we were given to not just like make sure that
our own students do well.
Right. We took that money and said, let's make sure that we are giving it to people who need it.
In our community. Yeah.
And yeah, it is, anyone can take those courses. Any high schooler, no matter your economic situation, can take these courses tuition free. And I think there's something just so special about that, and removes a barrier to employment, to a career.
Right. To something that they might be naturally really good at that they would never have known otherwise. And they could have missed their calling because of money, which is sad.
Yeah.
So the fact that we take that out of their equation is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always proud to work at MCC, but this particular initiative makes me extraordinarily proud.
Yes. Hard agree. Hard agree.
All right. Well, we can yap about that.
Yeah,
all
but
day.
let's let an expert yap about it.
We'll let Mark tell us his perspective and all the great things that are happening at Fremont Public Schools. So, without further ado, welcome, Mark.
Well, good morning. Glad to be here.
Today we have a really interesting topic for, I think, most everyone in Nebraska, which is dual enrollment. So do you just want to give us a little bit of backstory on Fremont's history with MCC and dual enrollment?
Absolutely. We started quite a few years ago with a couple of different classes, and we looked at and have both dual enrollment and also advanced placement classes within Fremont High School. And, you know, over the years, we've kind of shifted away from the advanced placement and moved more and more towards dual enrollment. And it really has to do with the accessibility for programming and then also the success of our students. Mm-hmm. And, you know, AP has been around for a long time, and there are still colleges and universities that accept AP. The challenges with AP is, number one, a lot of times the colleges and universities will only accept them as elective classes. Mm-hmm. They won't allow you to use those for within your major. And whereas with dual enrollment and dual credit, students that earn the hours, their true college hours, either towards a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, or a certification track. And it really allows the students to get a jump start on their education.
I suppose, in case people don't know, we should explain what dual enrollment is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll start with
I should have started with
take even a step back.
Let's back up a little bit. So really it's a concept that I would say started to become pretty prevalent in schools maybe around 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. There were a few opportunities before that where some of our high school seniors had the opportunity to take some college classes along the way. We used to do quite a bit with Midland University and then also with Metropolitan Community College, where our students would go to their campus and they would take a class. And I'd say over the last 10 years, it's really advanced to where at times our instructors are able to provide college credit while the students are also earning high school credit. So that's the dual enrollment. They're dually enrolled between Fremont High School and receiving high school credit towards graduation, and then also in a college course. And it's just a great opportunity for the students to get a higher level of learning, really hone in on maybe their future a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have a lot of different opportunities, and we've expanded that quite a bit over the last, I would say, probably 5-6 years.
Because, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, didn't it start at Fremont with welding? Was that the first kind of major dual enrollment program?
Welding was the first in the career cluster.
In the career cluster, okay.
We had some gen eds, like a English comp class or a psychology or sociology class, but those were pretty minimal. And it really was subject to the availability of an instructor. We started the welding program now 9 years ago that was really driven by local industry. Belmont in Valley, Nebraska came to us and the Metropolitan Community College and said, we need welders. And so as we started to look at what that could look like, and we spent considerable time talking about, would this be a college credit track? Would this be a career track? Would this be a high school credit track? It became pretty obvious pretty quickly that we needed to identify and develop something that was a little bit different. And, you know, we would kind of sit in the meetings, and I can remember those meetings really clearly with Metropolitan Community College on one side of the table and Fremont Public Schools on the other side. And we would go back and forth, and we would talk about, well, you know, your instructors can't give high school credit. And then the counter would be, well, your instructors can't give college credit.
So we are at an impasse.
Yeah, we were at an impasse. And then there was a vice president from from Belmont who would sit in on the meetings. And I think he was kind of diddling around and doing maybe some email and stuff because it seemed like he wasn't very engaged. And we'd have the meeting scheduled for an hour, and about 40 minutes in, it only happened a couple times, but it was pretty impactful. He would close the lid rather abruptly on his laptop, and he'd say, guys, you don't understand. We need welders. And
We're here for a reason.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because he always said, and I don't know why, we need 86 welders today as he pounded his fist on the table. And, you know, the smart aleck in me wanted to say, is it really 86 or maybe is it 85 or 87?
Right.
But the reality is it was very impactful. Having industry sitting there with us at the table, it got us refocused.
Yeah.
And then for the last 20 minutes of the meeting, we would, you know, hone in on, okay, what curriculum are we going to use? Is it going to be high school credit? Is it going to be college? Is it going to be dual enrollment? Is it certification track? And with the real impetus being they need welders. And we had students that were looking at their futures, and it gave us the opportunity for students to look differently at their futures.
So then from this welding program over the past 9 years has really grown into something really cool, which is the Career and Technical Education Center.
Yep. So the Career Technical Education program at Fremont High School has really grown exponentially. We've shifted away from a lot of, I would say, traditional shop classes, kind of hobby shop classes to a certain degree, and really shifted our focus to career orientation. And when we look at what it represents today, through a bond issue, we were able to build a building. It was about a $9.5 million career education center.
Wow.
It houses 6 labs. It invite anybody that wants to come out and tour it to come out. Within the 6 labs, we have 7 different tracks for the students to pursue. And they include welding. And so we took our little welding lab that we created 9 years ago on the other end of the building. It's about triple in size now. It's very much state-of-the-art. It's very much industry relevant, and that's the key to all of those labs.
Right.
So the students are continuing. They take 5 classes that are dual enrollment in welding, where they can pick up about a third of the way towards their associate's degree in welding. But they also get a local industry certificate, and that industry certificate was developed jointly with us in Belmont. And so the students now can take that industry certificate, and it's recognized by other organizations within not only Fremont, but also surrounding areas, including the Omaha metro area.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Very
and I think we have 5 or 6 students right now, former students that are working at Logier, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not too far from where we are right now.
Yeah.
No.
And they're welding every day. And some of those have been elevated to include some supervisory type roles. So we always talk about all of these programs are really not a means to an end, but they're really a means to a beginning for their careers.
Oh, I like that viewpoint of it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The other areas that we have represented within the building, we have a computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing lab where the students are involved in some dual credit opportunities as well. We teach AutoCAD. We also teach SolidWorks and Revit. So some 3D modeling, also some 3D, 4D manufacturing. We have a couple of Haas tool room. We have a tool room lathe, tool room mill. So a student literally can design a product. They can put it on a thumb drive, take it down to the lab where the two large CNC mill and lathe are, plug it in and run it. And so it's 100% industry relevant.
Yeah.
The other labs represent construction tech, where we're actually building a house inside the lab.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
you-
love that.
You guys know that.
all too
Yeah.
well, yes.
Yeah, and we came and visited the Fort campus quite a few times, looked
Yeah.
at what we needed to be able to pull that off. We have great industry partnership in every lab, but in particular in that lab where we have We See Plumbing, local plumbing company in Fremont, Getchman's G-Force, local HVAC, and then also Fremont Electric, local electrician. And you know what? The process is working. Our students are getting hired by these companies, and they're able to work side by side as they learn a trade. We have 2 students right now that applied for and have their apprenticeship electrician's card, and they're working for Fremont Electric on their time, and then side by side with Fremont Electric as they're working and building a house. And those are just 3 of the sponsors. I mean, we have CR Men Construction and Concrete. We have 2 manufacturers of trusses within Fremont with Christensen Lumber and Structural Component Systems. Both of them are involved in this process. ARPS Ready Mix is involved in the process. Even we hosted a regional school board association meeting, and Mohawk Floor Coverings was there. And so as they were seeing what was going on, they asked if they could tour that real quick, and they went in and talked to the instructor. And so they offered right away, we're going to provide the flooring and
that's
no
nice.
cost. And so, but they said with one caveat, we want our trainer of trainers to come in and work with your students so that they learn how to do things the correct way.
Wow.
And so just so many opportunities like that in construction tech. We have an automotive and diesel lab, and that's one lab where we teach Automotive Tech 1. We also teach small engines and power sports. Those are all dual enrollment classes, and then also a diesel tech program. And we have great support again we have 4 locally owned car dealerships in Fremont. And so they're very prevalent. They're bringing us the cars. They want to be in there with our students, so they get to know the students that have interest. And then in turn, the design of it is they'll invest in those students when they're done.
Yeah.
We have a health occupations lab. We've always taught, or I shouldn't say always, but over probably the last 5 or 6 years, we've taught CNA at the downtown Metro Community College campus. And but now it's on site. When you walk in, it looks very much like a triage center in a hospital or an urgent care. And the students are learning CNA. They're going to get their CNA certificate. And then the design is once we have a cadre of students that have completed CNA, we would then branch out, put in some micro-credential type classes through Metro, whether that's phlebotomy tech, whether that's surgical tech, med aid. And again, 2 major partners there with Methodist Fremont Health and Nye Health Services, a long-term care facility within Fremont. So a lot of great opportunities in that area as well. And then we have a mechatronics lab. So
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
that's the whole idea. See? You're going to invite the superintendent of schools today. You're going to have a little vocab lesson, right?
We love
I was
it.
about to say, you looked at me like, right?
Yeah.
You know what that means.
I knew that was going to be the reaction, so that's great. So when you think about mechatronics, you think about mechanical, electrical, and electronics, and you think about automation and robotics.
Okay.
And so I don't know. Somebody coined the term, and it's sticking. I'm seeing
right.
it. I'm seeing it in national publications now as well. But mechatronics, and it really is automation robotics. And so, a fun story about that program, and the question that we often get is, okay, who's teaching all these classes?
Yeah.
So I think the great news is we move well beyond the discussion of, is it your instructor, our instructor? Is it your curriculum, our curriculum? Who's going to give the credit? And some of that's been opened up by the Nebraska Department of Education. They've made it more available for industry relevant certification, industry relevant experiences to count.
Right.
And so that's been helpful. But we have an instructor who's a 24-year veteran in our staff I've been teaching in our computer aided design and drafting, line drawing, and then also some of the machine tool and die type areas on the far end of the building. And so he retooled last summer, over the summer. And the fun story is I received a phone call one morning that, hey, Keith is just really struggling with this curriculum and he's ready to walk. And I said,
no.
ready to walk? Where's he going? So
Take your shoes back off.
exactly. So I I said, was Keith there? And I taught industrial tech, so I taught shop.
Cool.
So I have a little different perspective than some people, and so I got Keith on the phone. I said, Keith, what's going on? He goes, Mark, I just don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to get this. And he said, I'm not sure I'll ever teach it. And I said, well, here's the deal. It's very much online, student-led learning. And I said the students will go through, and there's manuals. They'll go through, and they'll do some experiments online. They'll do a lot of learning online and within the manuals that are provided. And then they go into the lab, and they actually experience it. So I said the role of the instructor is so different. You're not standing in front of students and teaching
Yeah.
per se.
It's not a lecture.
You're not doing that at all. It's very much hands-on. It's very
Yeah.
much student-led and online. And so I said your role is going to be to really stay about a day ahead of the students.
Yeah.
And I said, but the other thing is, don't be offended when halfway through the first quarter, 4 or 5 students run past you like you're standing still.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're going to get it. I mean, it's no different than me trying to fumble around with my technology, and I don't always get it. My family laughs about that.
And then a teenager comes in and they click
Oh.
2 buttons and it's
Yeah.
all set.
Yeah, I constantly lose my mouse on the touchscreen, and I always go to one of my go-to people in our district,
Yeah.
and they just go, well, here, it's right here. And I'm like, okay, didn't know that.
Sure.
So I think the bottom line is we brought in industry then, and we started talking about these opportunities. And we had 2 local industries, one in Fremont, one in Omaha, and that's Lincoln Premium Poultry, Costco
Oh,
Chicken.
yep.
So they came in, and then also J. Skinner Bakeries, which is right here in Omaha.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And so if you don't know J. Skinner, if you ever bought the cinnamon rolls in the pan, it has the squiggly white frosting on them.
Oh, yeah.
That's J. Skinner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it might be under a Walmart brand, it might be under a Costco brand, it might be somebody else's brand.
But we thank them for their
Yeah.
service.
Absolutely. We love it. So their CEO lives in our community. And so as we did those presentations to those 2 groups, they looked at it and said, you know what? They looked at their CEOs, both looked at their HR departments and said, okay, we want to find those 5 kids that are running past that instructor, and we want to hire them because we can't find people with those skill sets.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can give you success story after success story of
I'm sure.
even in the short time since we opened this fall, where we're directly connecting students not only to a career but also to local industry and the opportunities that are presented.
I think as you were explaining all of that, the thing that really sticks out to me is just it's not just about what Fremont Public Schools and Metropolitan Community College thinks is important. It's really about what is good for our communities, our business partners. I mean, I think brain drain has been a big.
That is so weird you just said that because I was thinking it.
I mean, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at the top of everyone's mind. Of like, how do we make sure that we are educating our the people in Nebraska and that they want to stay here and grow their families here and all of those things. But if there are not jobs and we do not have a workforce to fill the jobs,
Absolutely.
then we're just always going to have a losing battle. But I think dual enrollment and then specifically then this career focused dual enrollment is really going to help shift the tide on that.
It's definitely going to help. And we started the process for planning for the Career Education Center probably about 5 or 6 years ago. We took a large number of industry leaders and we went and toured different facilities. We went out to Grand Island, Columbus, Sandy Creek, Nebraska, believe it or not.
Ah,
A little
okay.
out in the small district out in the cornfields. And then we went to Lincoln Public Schools. And I was, for 5 years, I was Associate Superintendent for Business in Lincoln. And so I was there when we did a lot of the pre-planning for that facility. So I had some knowledge of what was there. And then we came down, as I mentioned earlier, we went to the Fort campus here on campus where we are right now. And then we also went to the South campus. And Todd Hansen, one of your Executive Vice President, is also very much involved in Fremont Public Schools. He's a Fremont Public School alum. Todd also serves on our Board of Education. So kind of a dual role there.
Shout out to Todd Hansen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, and then we involved our local Chamber of Commerce and our Greater Fremont Development Corp., which is our economic development arm within the community. And so as we went out and we toured, we talked about the what ifs. And then we spent time and we went into every local industry and talked with them. We had 3 criteria: high wage, high skill, high demand jobs. So if they met 2 of the 3, we understood they still had the need, but it really didn't meet the need of our students. And that's how we honed in on what we were gonna put together. I mentioned earlier the taxpayers supported a bond issue, which $9.5 million of our bond issue was for the Career Education Center. We equipped it jointly with Metropolitan Community College by using some of our federal funds, some of our local funds, and then also some grants that we wrote together. And then that was about $2 million worth of equipment. And then we kind of put it on local industry. If this is going to be successful, if it's going to be sustainable, we can't drain the district's budget with it.
Right.
We need their support. And they've come alongside us in a big way. In about 5 weeks last summer, we generated over $2 million of either in-kind or direct cash support for the programming. Yeah. And that's going to keep it going.
So, Evan, you're earning college credits in high school?
Tuition-free college credits. I'm saving time for future me.
And I'm saving thousands in college tuition.
Kelsey, you're graduating high school?
With my gen eds knocked out, tuition-free.
Always one step ahead, Kelsey. Jimmy, after high school, what are you going to be?
Debt-free thanks to MCC. Thanks, MCC.
Earn college credits while still in high school. Tuition-free. Classes start June 5th. Get started at mccneb.edu/tuition-free.
I think the other question that people probably have is like, well, how much does this cost students to participate in? If they're taking college credit classes.
Right.
Like,
what's the catch?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, prior to COVID, prior to the ESSERS funds being available at the federal level, our students were paying a greatly reduced rate for dual enrollment. The last 3 years, it's been covered, and that money flowed from the federal government to the state to the community colleges, and so we've been able to waive the tuition for those programs. And then this next year, Metropolitan Community College and their Board of Governors voted to continue that waiver. So our students are not paying for it right now. The challenge is moving beyond that. That's not sustainable. So there's a bill that's going to go before the legislature this year. It's been introduced, LB 173. A number of us, including myself and Randy Schmazel, President at Metro, will be doing providing some testimony in that regard. We're working with a lot of different entities. It would provide statewide funding for dual enrollment. I think the first year it's estimated around $10 million. Second year they think it'd be around $12 million because there's going to be a ramp up as suddenly it's available. It's been available, as I said, here in the metropolitan community college area for the last 3 years, and then next year. But in some of the other areas, it's not been available. So it'll expand.
Yeah, we during COVID when we got our ARPA funds, this is how MCC chose to spend their ARPA funds, was to make dual enrollment free for high school students. And not every community college in Nebraska did that, and that is fine. But I mean, dual credit was already gaining speed before COVID, and then after COVID, or during and after COVID, I think that it's been really helping bridge that gap of some of those students that were in high school during COVID and just like really weren't sure what to do, right?
Oh, and not only that, but just, the things that we learned during COVID about how to deliver instruction, much more online, much more, where the instructor's role changed to more of a facilitator. And, so a lot of negatives out of COVID, obviously, but definitely some positives. When we look at how we've grown our dual enrollment, we've talked a lot about the Career Education Center and the opportunities there that started this fall. But in Fremont Public Schools, I'll just give you a rundown of some of the courses that we have available. And through dual enrollment with Metropolitan Community College. We have Infotech 1, Infotech 2, so that's computer-type programming. We have a computer programming course. We have anatomy and physiology. Two more very much technology-driven courses, IT Essentials and Web Design. We also have economics. We have several different math classes. We have technical math, which is termed modular math. We have Algebra 3 Trig, which is an honors-type program. We have calculus. So we have programs that for a student that's going to go on and maybe they're going to pursue a 4-year degree, those programs are there. Some of the gen eds like music appreciation, like English comp, technical writing, world history, and we have a couple different versions of world history that are available. Beyond that, we also have speech and education academy where students that want to be a teacher, they can start with their intro to teaching course, get that out of the way. We have the healthcare academy. We have a criminal justice academy, EMC or emergency medical responders, and then also sociology. So we have a lot of different areas where students that want to pursue either a 2-year degree, a certification route, or a 4-year degree, they can get a huge jump on their college education at either no cost or a greatly reduced cost.
Really something for like any kind of student.
Any kind of student, and the opportunities are there. They just need to take advantage of them. One of the things that we looked at was our graduation requirements, and we had a lot of electives that were included well beyond the 175 hours that are required to graduate from high school for the required courses. Our current level is 210, which we brought down from 250, which gives students then the opportunity to dive into some of these dual enrollment programs. And so it's been great for our students. The opportunities are there. The other thing we haven't talked about is a lot of those trades classes, a lot of the programming in that CTE center also requires some specialized equipment.
Right.
And it's personal equipment. So whether it's steel toe boots or, leather gauntlets so that they can weld, different types of things. And so in those specialty areas, we've partnered with our Fremont Public School Foundation for that.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
So they get the donations and they obligate some of their fundraising efforts throughout the year. And then they can come alongside students that either can't afford the tools, the textbooks, the specialized equipment, and they can help them out as well.
I was putting together some information about dual enrollment, and there was a number that really hit me was that from the past 2 school years, so the 2023, 24 school year, $15 million is what the MCC dual enrollment students saved.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's an incredible
Giant number.
15 million. It's just so cool to think about. And then, yes, when you are talking then about career, those more trades jobs, it's nice to know that, Fremont, and I'm sure other schools are doing that too.
Oh, they definitely are. And I know Millard Public Schools just passed a bond issue. I think it was announced yesterday. And one of their components of that bond issue is looking at a career education center at Millard North High School. And so, which is kind of interesting because when I student taught at Millard North High School.
Oh, yeah?
In that area.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with their superintendent last week, and we were just talking about Millard North, and I told him I taught in that shop and student taught in that shop, and he said, "Mark, if you were there in 1986, it's probably pretty much the same as it was when you were there."
Oh, no.
And that's pretty prevalent across the state.
Yeah.
But the area around that school is not. It used to be all
exactly.
farm fields out there.
Exactly.
It's wild.
Yep. A couple other things that are kind of interesting and really that emphasize the need for this, dual enrollment and these opportunities for our students. We talked about the tuition waivers, and Fremont Public Schools and our community, we have about 62% poverty. And so when you think about a student that's in poverty and the opportunities that they have, if we have to charge tuition, if they have to provide their own specialty equipment, it's going to be really difficult. And when you think about poverty and you think about moving individuals out of poverty, the old statement about give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
Right.
And that's very relevant to this whole topic. Is if they can get some career-ready skills, heading towards the path of a high-wage, high-skill, high-demand job, they can move out of poverty pretty quick.
Yeah, and you can do that right out of high school if you do these dual enrollment classes.
Right out of high school. Yeah.
So how many students, like percentage-wise or whatever, would you say do dual enrollment?
All right. This is perfect because I just clicked on the slide that I have on my screen.
And I can't see it. I just want everyone to
I know.
wasn't
See,
even a setup.
it's right there. So Hope Pierce in our communications department put together, she's our PR person, put together a slide
to
for
Hope.
me. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Hope. Dual credit and advanced placement. So in 2021-22, not that long ago, we had 263 students that were enrolled in advanced placement courses,
Okay.
and we had 598 that were enrolled in dual enrollment, which is still big.
Yeah.
We have a 1,700 student high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
But fast forward to 23-24, we had 133 in advanced placement, so down from 263, but we're up to 900 students that
Wow.
were involved out of our 1,700 students in dual enrollment.
Wow.
And then this year, so far through the first semester, and some of those would be repeats of students
Sure.
that took more than one course, but we have 787 through first semester dual enrollment courses that have been, students have been engaged in. And then advanced placement is still there. It's still relevant. We currently have about 75 students that have been enrolled in that. But we opened that center this fall, and we were really concerned because at times we've struggled to fill the welding classes.
Right.
Will we be able to sustain this? Will we be able to fill the classes? And
Sounds
so
right.
at times we've struggled to have 12 to 15 students in a welding program or 4 students in a diesel program. And when we opened this fall, we had 450 students engaged in learning in that program. So
Wow.
in those classes throughout that CTE center. So it's definitely working. It's got the tie directly to industry, and we're growing it. And it is a build it and they will come.
Catherine and I talk almost every episode
Yes.
on this podcast about how the feelings towards trades, community colleges has changed. So, I mean, you brought up 1986 and being at so you've
being
been
in
doing
shop class.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you've been doing
That's
this for
right.
a long time. So for us, we were like, when we were graduating, it was like you go to a 4-year school because that is what you need to do. And pretty much if you didn't do that, everyone was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
We keep saying we feel like the tide is changing on that. How do you feel
I
on your
think it's shifted exponentially, and I think a big part of that has to do with the aging workforce. So when we think about the baby boomers, which I'm kind of the last group of that group, are aging out, they're retiring, they're moving out of industry. That creates a void, that creates an opportunity. Technology has advanced, a great deal. And we talked about mechatronics, our new vocab word. Remember what
Right.
it means?
Mechatronics.
All right. Remember
It's
what
like-
it means?
It's like robotics and tronics.
That's right. Automation, robotics,
Automation.
electrical,
robotics.
mechanical, and
Electrical,
electronics.
mechanicals.
Yeah,
Okay.
all combined together.
well,
Good.
yeah.
You're getting it.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Good teacher would circle back and make sure
Yes.
that the learning's taking place. So when we think about the advances in technology and how that has really helped companies deal with what they can forecast very easily as a labor shortage. So that really creates that high demand for the jobs. The technology and the skill set that's required creates the high skill. And then obviously when there's a shortage of workers, that creates the high wage.
Right.
I always give the example of every year I present, and I've been doing this since 1995, to our Construction Employers Association in Fremont. And for a long time, they were looking for laborers. And they really, back in the day, they wanted a $6 an hour laborer. And then they would kind of grow them up through their system. Today, they're looking for, as I mentioned earlier, an apprentice electrician. They're looking for a kid that can not only do some plumbing, but weld gas pipe.
Right.
I mean, very much a skilled area.
Yes.
It used to be the car dealerships would try to hire somebody who could come and clean the shop after hours or maybe detail cars. They still need those people
Right.
and need those positions, but now they're looking for a skilled technician. We had a student last year that signed with Dillon Brothers Harley Davidson in Elkhorn. And literally, we held a signing just like we do for our kids that get a 4-year scholarship to go play football at the University of Nebraska. And they signed because they need technicians that are skilled. And that young man is now going once a month for about a week, once a month to Milwaukee to the Harley Davidson Training Center and learning that skill. And he'll come back and he'll be able to lead that effort. And that's, again, just one example, but there are many examples because the opportunities are there and it's really shifted that focus. 4-year degrees are still relevant. 4-year degrees still have very much value. Somebody said, well, Mark, you're just creating programming for, kind of the lowest level of the workforce. And that's just not true. We had one of our local dentistry offices come in. They have 3 dentists. They had about 25 people in the health occupations lab after they toured all the labs. And one of the dentists said, how many of you have a CNA? And I would say all but about 4 or 5 hands went up.
Well,
and then 2 of the 3 dentists started with a CNA. So it's a means to a beginning, not a means to an end.
Yeah, sometimes you just need your foot in the door on that kind of stuff to see it's like,
Yep.
oh yeah, I know this is something I really like. This is something I can pursue. I think it also breeds a confidence in these students of oh yeah, I'm not just falling asleep in algebra class every day, wondering how this is ever going to be applicable.
Which
to
we
my
don't
life.
think anyone is doing. We just
I know everybody loves algebra class.
Yes.
No, that's exactly right. And I made the mistake very early in my high school career of raising my hand more than once, and I was probably that kid. And I said, when are we ever going to use this in life? And that was Algebra 1. And I can tell you I use Algebra 1 every day. I've been a school business official. We do a lot with spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Spreadsheets are all about algebra and algebraic expressions. And when you don't get them right, then it's an error. And, I think today kids don't have to ask those types of questions. They can see the relevance. They can see the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's right there in front of them. And it's right there at their grasp if they want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that we think of dual enrollment and dual enrollment tuition free, almost like a scholarship for these students.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You get it was not available to us to graduate with an associate degree the same weekend that we were going to graduate with our high school diploma when we were in school. That was
not an option.
That was not what was happening. And now that happens in our area all the time.
Yeah.
It does. It hasn't happened at Fremont yet, but we're getting close.
Oh, I'm sure.
We have some students that are, pursuing that. But I know at Millard South, it's been a big emphasis.
Yeah, I think this last graduation, they had 140 students that graduated with a high school diploma and an associate degree.
That's so cool.
That's very cool. One more quick success story in our first ever welding program, which was 9 years ago. We had a young man who participated in that programming, then went on to Wayne State College, got his teaching degree. So again, means to a beginning, not a means to an end. Then went to work for Papillion La Vista Public Schools and was a middle school teacher. And then we were able to hire him back. And so Joe Gieselman is our instructor down at our middle school.
Hey.
And he, with a retirement, we had an opening, and so Joe applied and we hired him. And Joe is now pushing down small engines and welding and construction tech to 7th and 8th graders.
Shout out to Joe. That's
Absolutely.
so full circle.
Yeah, it is. It's 100% full circle.
That's so cool.
And another example of, this isn't just moving towards a job. It's truly moving towards a career, and it's a career continuum because unlike when we went through school where you kind of picked a path and that was pretty much your path, students today have so many other opportunities that they can choose. And we like to look at the whole education as lifelong learning and a continuum. And you can kind of jump off when you want to jump off, and then you can jump back in when you want to jump back in. And you guys see that every day here at Metropolitan Community College.
So you started as teaching Well, shop.
Industrial tech. Yeah, I
So-
student taught at Millard North, and it was in woods where we made cutting boards and some small cabinets and nightstands. Drafting, where for the most part it was line drawing with a little bit of computer aided design, and then also metals, where we did some welding and some cutting and made some little toolboxes and stuff.
So this feels not personal, but I feel like you have like a connection because you started sort of in that, like you started in that line.
It's
yeah.
very personal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
So
my passion.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Because
So-
you have seen how it's worked for you and you've gotten to be the superintendent of schools doing
Absolutely.
that work
Yeah.
in your community. Are you from Fremont?
I'm
Or
not
the
from
area?
Fremont. My dad actually grew up in Fremont. I grew up in Northern Illinois.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Because dad was a school superintendent as well. And then
The family
when-
business.
Yeah. Well, I have another brother who's a superintendent.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I have a brother who's the principal at Waverly.
Wow.
And then I have a sister who's a retired elementary school principal.
Wow. So,
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
big
the-
education family.
yeah, not to mention I have we have 6 children.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have 5 girls and a boy. And let's see, I have a daughter who teaches and an instructional coach up at West Point, Nebraska. I have
That's
a
where I'm
son
from.
who teaches from West Point.
She is.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Taylor Shepard's teacher
Okay,
there, and
yep.
she also coaches girls basketball. So good luck to them on districts and state.
You got this.
out
Absolutely.
Taylor.
Then our son Clayton is out in Cambridge, Nebraska, where he's a math and science teacher, and also coaches basketball. And then we have 2 daughters. One who's in her first year of teaching, second grade at DC West, and another one who's kindergarten teacher, second year of teaching
Wow.
at DC West.
Cute that
Yeah.
they're at the same school.
So then we have 2 that I don't know how we went astray with them, but one plays professional basketball, so she's
Okay.
Jessica Shepard. Yeah, she plays in the WNBA and
Casual.
also in Europe.
Jessica, how could you do that and not become a teacher?
That's right. Yeah, we've always said maybe she'll be a coach, and then our
There's still
youngest,
time.
our youngest is a senior this year at Midland, and she's marketing and I don't know what they call it, but with technology.
Communications. Oh,
Yeah.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with marketing.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah, and you know what? But it has been a passion of ours as a family. And for me personally, it is very personal. And the biggest thing that I always point to is when I taught shop, we were on the far end of the building. It was dark, dingy, dirty. It smelled. It was loud. The kids that were there thrived. The
Right.
kids that weren't in there didn't even want to know what was
We're
going
like,
on
no,
behind
That,
those
that's
doors.
not my
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, yeah.
They were like,
and
"Have
so
you been known to
so
shop?"
when you come out and visit the Fremont, CTE Center, you're going to find out it's everything opposite of that.
It's the place
it's a
to
main
be.
entrance into the school
Yeah.
on the north side off the parking lot. We use that entrance for athletics and activities. We want people
Okay.
to see it.
Yeah.
There's glass to the outside so they can see the house being built. They
Oh,
can
that's
see all the
cool.
things going on. When you walk down the hall, there's glass into the classrooms, so it's the window into those opportunities. And it's the only way we can change that narrative of, that a 2-year or a certification opportunity is something lesser than a 4-year degree, because it's not.
Yeah. I guess what would be your last pitch for why dual enrollment is essential for Nebraska high schoolers?
I think it's absolutely critical that we provide the opportunity for students. And when we talk about, and we've talked about for years, that education is the great equalizer, I would take it a step further, that education in these career areas, education leading towards degrees, certifications, whether it's 2-year, 4-year, but industry relevant type programming is absolutely the game changer. And without the opportunity for the students to take these classes, they're not going to be sustainable. There's a large emphasis right now on we've got to shift from property taxes to other methods. We've got to make government leaner. We've got to make government more economically feasible. And I think this is the game changer for our students and our families. And really, you think about our local industries and you think about the workforce shortage that's to come, they have to have a skilled workforce. And this provides that opportunity. And the dual enrollment is really the vehicle that gets them there. And the tuition waivers are essential to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, we agree.
Wholeheartedly.
Well,
So if you get an opportunity, contact your senators about LB 173.
Yes.
Because it's important.
It is.
yes, we are really excited to see how this all turns out, and we really appreciate the partnership with Fremont Public Schools and all of our high school partnerships. I mean, obviously, dual enrollment does not happen without high schools willing to do it and see the value in it. So thank you, Mark, for coming and chatting with us, and thank you for being such a great proponent of this program.
Absolutely. And, I can't say enough about the partnership with Metropolitan Community College. Randy Schmazel and I are good personal friends. We knew each other before we started on this little venture, but we know each other really well now. People that have been involved, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but definitely Jordan Pirtle,
Yes.
who's very much involved in dual enrollment. Todd Hansen, who we've already talked about, has been instrumental in getting this thing pulled together. Dr. Nate Berry, Scott Brody, the whole crew of CTE here at Metropolitan Community College, and then a number of people on our side of the house as well. When we went out and met with all those local industry people, we took along not only our chamber and GFDC, but also Scott Jensen, our director of secondary ed, and then our executive director of teaching and learning, Kate Heineman, as well. So it's just been a huge effort. And mentioned Hope Pierce earlier. She's been instrumental in putting together a lot of the graphics and a lot of the information that's gone out to help students understand what these opportunities represent.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming by. It was a really informative chat.
Yes.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
MCC Made with Emma Frazier, Catherine Riggs, and Tim Clark. Produced by Emma Frazier. Executive produced by Nanette Rodriguez. Production support by Herdat. Got a question for us? Email mccmade@mccneb.edu, and your question may be answered on a future podcast.